Hello, this is Josh Belk with the Belk on Business podcast. On today's episode, we're going to take another snippet of a podcast I had the opportunity to shoot with a good friend of mine, Andrew Cordle, on the Money Is podcast out in Utah a few weeks ago. On today's podcast, we are going to talk a little bit about what money is. Hopefully this particular podcast will bring you value. I'll put in the show notes the link to the entire Money Is episode, and I would love for you to take a few moments and listen to the entire podcast. Hope this podcast brings you value. Have a wonderful day.
I want to move to a money question here with you for the show, and it'd be a unique one. Obviously, you are a accountant CPA, but we'll see what your answer is here. So this is Josh Belk from Lodestar Tax and Accounting. Money is blank. You fill your answer out here, and I think it's fair to tell the audience you were one of the original gangsters of the Money Is show. Like, I think it was maybe. For sure, inside of the top five. I mean, like first five that I ever did was with you. It was like, and this would be cool for you because it was like Gary Vaynerchuk, Grant Cardone, Kevin O'Leary, Josh Belk. I'm pretty sure that was the order.
That's like stepping off a cliff. Right?
I'm pretty sure that was the order, if I'm not mistaken. And for number five, I believe was Dave Overman.
Okay.
Was number five.
I think you're right.
In that order there. But when I did it back then, I didn't have these cool signs. I didn't have all this the way I do it now, and I don't have it laid out in my office. So I wanted to redo it with you. And that one was 100% taxes. I don't know if you remember or not.
It was.
We sat there and went deep into tax structure and all kinds of stuff. So on this one, I'm gonna get this one back to you. Money is blank. You fill this out, and then me and you will talk about this right here.
And make your comment about making sure we spell it correctly.
Sharpie. Good luck. It happens all the time. So if you misspell it, we can redo it. Hey, you're a CPA, not a English teacher.
Okay.
You sign it?
Oh, I can.
All right. Here we go. From my CPA to hopefully your future CPA. Money is a reflection. Now, my brain is now running through all my signs that I have. Money is a reflection. I am 99% sure, and Brittany can let me know if I'm off on this, but I don't think we have that word on any of the signs. I don't think we have that word. So this is my favorite time because it's a new word. Money is a reflection. All right, give me what it means to you.
Well, I think that when we take a look at how somebody uses their money, it's going to be a reflection of who they are. And so if you were to look into, I think if you were to take a look, a snapshot at somebody's checkbook, for example, you would and to see how they spend their money, you would, I think, learn a lot about who that person truly is.
That's so true, man.
And so I think it truly is a reflection. So money has such a bad vibe around it. You hear this verse. You've even mentioned it here on the podcast. I'll talk scriptural principles here just for a moment, if you don't mind. We have that scripture verse that says, and it's so often quoted, right? That money is the root of all evil. Well, that's not what the verse says. It is the love of money. It's the root of all kinds of evil. And as I was going through actually a couple weeks ago, the pastor at the church that I attend, he was in Acts chapter 8, and of course when you go to this chapter, there's a story in that chapter almost everybody thinks about. But at the beginning of that chapter, actually, there's a story that actually illustrates this particular principle. It was a man by the name of Simon who was a sorcerer.
Okay.
And he had all kinds of wealth. He had all kinds of fame because he was able to kind of use his gift, so to speak, to be able to basically tell other people what was going to happen and the whole nine yards. And so he had greatly monetized from this. Well, Simon eventually, he had ended up going to hear a man by the name of Philip, who was one of the 12 apostles, speak. And at that particular event, he became a believer. Well, you read a little bit later on, a few verses later in the chapter, and you find out that he had ended up crossing the path of Peter and John. And he had saw Peter and John putting their hands on someone, and essentially that person had received the Holy Spirit and some of the power that had come along with it. And he became rather enamored with it, and he went to Peter, and he told Peter that how much money would it take for me to get this particular gift, which of course this is a spiritual gift that cannot be obtained with finances. And I think still in his mind, when you kind of read into the passage a little bit, it appears that he felt that he could take his money and buy everything that he possibly wanted. and he obviously probably had greed. And it was a reflection of who he was. He was a man that essentially wanted to use his money for a certain thing. We end up also finding in this particular passage that he was told by Peter, your money is going to perish with you.
Yeah.
It's going to be destroyed, just like you're going to be destroyed. Eventually, we all have an exit strategy or an exit plan, and that's going to be death, and our money does too. And that money eventually, it doesn't go with us. Eventually, it needs to be deployed somewhere. Well, he did not know how to handle this. And eventually we see that he became envious, he became bitter, he became angry, and he ended up doing all kinds of foolish things, wicked things. And when you go into that passage in 1 Timothy that talks about for the love of money is the root of all kinds of evil, or is the root of all evil, if you read around it, we find out that that greed, that pursuit of money for selfish reasons does end up resulting in envy, in bitterness, and it does lead to a foolish lifestyle. Kind of going back to the beginning of the podcast, talking about why do business owners fail? If greed is the motivator for them, if they're getting into business purely for their own financial gain, for their own elevation of their eyes in other people, they will find themselves in a position of being envious because somebody's always going to have more.
Right.
They're going to be bitter because guess what? There are people out there that aren't going to think that you're as great as you think you are. And really, it will lead to doing all kinds of foolish things and making all kinds of foolish decisions. And so money truly is a reflection of who we are, where we're wanting to go, and what we're wanting to eventually accomplish with our lives.
Yeah, it's a great answer, and it's a very, very accurate answer. And the statement you made makes me stuck in my head was take a screenshot of your checkbook, or you use checkbook because you're very old, so I'm going to use your
debit card transaction.
Screenshot of your app which has all your transactions on it. But you take a screenshot of that and you kind of go through there and think about if you handed just say 30 days worth of it to someone else, what would that tell them about you? That's a really cool way to look at it. You know what I mean? Like what would they if they broke it all down and okay, this was for food and this was for this or whatever it was, and it's like as they did that, what would happen if people saw 30 days of transactions in your life, and what would it tell them about you and your life? Dude, that is a really unique way to think about it, man. I'm thinking through my own expenses right now. I'm like, man, what would someone see about me and think about? They didn't know me, right? Then here's what this guy does with his money. That's a cool way to think about it.
But
man.
even if they did know you, they thought they knew you, but you can find out. I mean, do they have an alcohol addiction? Do they have, what is it that's going on in their life?
Do they give money? Where do they give money to?
Yeah. What is the reason why they're doing it? If you see, they're buying all kinds of cars versus they're taking a chunk of their money and they're investing it in the lives of other people or in a nonprofit to pursue to solve a particular problem, you're going to find that out.
It's a great way to look at it. It's kind of a scary way to look at it too now. I go give away more money every month now in case everybody gets a month of my checking account, so they'll think good about it, man. But what a good answer to money is a reflection, because it is truly a reflection. I always say that money never changes people. It will only reveal, or in your word right here, it will reflect who you really are. Like in Simon's example or illustration you gave right there, it was just revealing who was inside of him, and since money was a big piece of his life, it revealed the ego, the mindset that he had inside of it. You know what I mean? Last thing I'll tell you, man, I read it. I don't know if you know the guy I interviewed a while back. I can't think of his last name right now, but it's irrelevant. But he's a financial planner, family planner. And I thought it was so unique. Everybody talks about generational wealth. Mm-hmm. You hear that word thrown around nonstop, myself included. And we were talking about generational wealth, and he's like, most of the time when people think about that, they think about Rockefellers and the Walton family and so forth, right? And he's like, this unlimited, for God knows how long, wealth is going to be established there. And he's like, that's such a one in a literally 100 million people type of wealth that exists, right? And his whole research and study that they did at their office was most wealth never makes it past 3 generations. Was the whole outlook and process of it. He said, if you actually knew that no matter how hard you worked, Andrew, no matter how much you set aside, no matter how much you stuffed away and spent all this time building stuff, if you knew that after 3 generations it was all going to be gone, when you're dead, it's all going to be gone anyways, it's not going to actually create actual long-term generational 20 generations down the road wealth, would it change what you do today with your money? And I thought, dude, again, it was like one of those thoughts that made me really, really think of like, yeah, actually, I think I would. And his whole point was you should spend the money on the relationships that you want because it's not going to last forever. Like even when you're gone and you talk about legacy, it's not going to go as long as you think it's going to go. He said most, at the max, last 3 generations, most of them don't make it past the kids. The grandkids actually don't even hardly ever get any amount of it. And it's a unique thought of, and it made me think about with all the taxes and all the money that you get to see in there. And I wonder, and maybe this be an off-air question, but I wonder how many times you have seen money last for generations, or you're doing the accounting for the 3rd generation of a family that still has something. And my guess is that's probably pretty rare.
Yeah, to be honest with you, I can't even think of one.
I know that's what's kind of crazy if you stop and think about it. Like we all hear this word generational wealth. And I'm not sure that, and his whole point was, he's like, I'm not sure that even actually exists. He's like, because he said, even though you set up all these irrevocable trusts and stuff, he's like, dude, they'll still find ways to break them, throw them apart, trash them. Because if they don't understand, they never met you, they have no respect for you, no ill will or either way towards you, and it's just a money thing for them, you know? And I thought, dude, and it makes me think, again, it goes back to reflection, and Simon is where all these thoughts are coming from. But interesting point, man. I love the answer. Money is a reflection, dude. Great answer.